Put his hand up. Folks, my name is Jason. I'll be your historian and trainman on your experience back in time today. Your conductor is Matt. Your other trainman is Jack. Here he is. Hello, Jack. He's our jack of all trades. And the locomotive 1829 engineer is Zach. Now, before we get started, folks, there are just a few quick reminders for everybody. Per federal and state law, there is no smoking or vaping aboard the train of any kind whatsoever. There are also no working restrooms on the train. So, if duty calls, hold it. And for our youngins who are traveling with their grandparents today, if you would do me a favor, keep your papaws out the center of the train. Trains make papaws very excited. They want to go running up and down the middle of the aisle. Please keep them in their seats.
It's going to reverse.
Now, truth be told, folks, we just got started and we've already run into a major problem. And what is that problem? We're going the wrong way. In order for us to head to our final destination of East Chattanooga, we need to be going west. That's right, folks, going west to East Chattanooga. Well, I call that going west. How are we going to fix that problem? Well, we're going to use what is called our why. Why do you guys think we're asking the young man the question? He's like, what?
I mean, I knew we were.
Anyway, this why that we're about to use allows us to make a giant 3-point turn on the railroad. So we are going to turn our locomotive in 3 passenger cars in a 3-point turn. Conductor Matt's on the rear of the train. He is protecting our shove, but a shove is just a fancy railroad term for saying we're going backwards. So while we do this shove, I have a little extra time to talk about the history of these passenger cars that we're riding in today. If you are riding in car number 1, the passenger car where I'm coming to you from, this is the Central Georgia number 390, built in 1947 by the American Car and Country Company for the Central Georgia Railroad's Nancy Hanks 2 passenger train. 390 is known as a combine car. So what does that mean? It is a combination passenger and baggage car. Features 3/4 passenger sections, which everybody is in right now. That door in the very front of the train, that is the 1/4 baggage room. That baggage room is open to view at any point in your journey. You can also ride out there as our open air portion of the train.
There's nobody.
The other 2 passenger cars in our train today are the Norfolk and Western, Randolph-Macon College, and the Emory and Henry College. They were built in 1949 by the Buck Company, and a series of 8 other cars. They were sleeping cars for the N&W, and they were used on such trains as the Pocahontas and the Cavalier. In the 1960s, they were acquired by the Pennsylvania Railroad, where they tore out all of the sleeping accommodations, and they put in about 88 seats for maximum passenger capacity. They were also used to transport folks to the 1964 New York World's Fair. And our engineer Zach's already seen we got a green signal on the ground, and our switch is lined for the west leg of the Y. We're going to be prepared to head west to East Chattanooga. Now, before I get to anything else, what I want you to do, folks, is make sure you hang on to your ticket that got you on the train today. Why do I say that? Well, that's going to get you free access into our exhibit hall, and that is located in the back left of the parking lot. You'll see a sign in the back there that says Exhibit Building with an authentically vintage hand-pointing left. Miss Carla is working the exhibit hall today. That is also my mother. So when y'all get off the train, tell her son Jason said hello. Also, be sure to visit our display yard. All of our pieces of equipment are here for display. You cannot go inside them, however. But I will talk about one piece of equipment in specific, that large blue and gray diesel locomotive. That is the Tennessee Valley Authority 3060, built in 1958 by the Fairbanks Sports Company for the TVA's Gallatin, Tennessee fossil plant. It is known as a baby trainmaster, also known classified as an H1666. H stands for Hood Unit, produces 1,600 horsepower, and it has 6 axles with 6 motors. It was used until 1998 when TVA decided to start receiving shipments of coal to Gallatin, Tennessee by truck. They practically abandoned it on their property until 2021. The Tennessee Valley Authority donated a locomotive to us here today. To this day, there are only 3 locomotives, Trainmaster style locomotives, built by Fairbanks Morse left in the entire world. 2 of those are in Canada. Where's the only one here in the United States? Well, you just walked right by it. Coming up the depot, so make sure to visit that on your way home today. Folks, looks like we are now on the main line. We'll talk about the most exciting part of the train happening right here, right now. Both sides of the train, you will see trees. Oh man, how exciting. Matter of fact, there goes my favorite one with all the green leaves. Well, unless they're changing, I don't know. Don't worry, folks, I'll branch off of that one later. There's plenty more where that came from. Now, this railroad you're traveling over today, this is the East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad, completed in the year 1859, connected the city of Dalton, Georgia to Knoxville, Tennessee. On the left side of the train down there, you'll see that gravel driveway and a little piece of panel track that seems to follow where a former bridge was over our Chickamauga Creek. That is the original 1859 location of this railroad. Keep that in mind for just a minute as we cross over the creek here. The East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad in 1868 would merge with the East Tennessee and Virginia Railroad to create the East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia Railroad. That was until 1894, when it would merge with the Richmond and Danville Railroad to become the famous Southern Railway. So this is a former Southern Railway main line that we are traveling over today. Well now, folks, you might be wondering, why are we not running on the original 1859 right-of-way of the railroad? Well, that is with one word, and that word is flooding. Matter of fact, the entire area here in the Tennessee Valley was prone to several severe events of flooding multiple times a year, the worst of which occurred in the year 1867, known as the Great Flood. In that flood, the water rose over 9 feet on top of the railroad in its original location, which was back there on that gravel driveway. Chickamauga Creek rose 65 feet on top of its normal running height. And that means everything that you see around you right here would have been underwater. Here's our second bridge crossing over the Western and Atlantic Railroad, also known by a simple abbreviation, the W&A. Now, folks, let me tell you this very important thing right here. If it's any indication of how Southern I am, it is not W, it's W. Yep, W is also spelled D-U-B-Y-A. Dadgum, get her done. Anyway, that railroad, the W&A, was the very first into the city of Chattanooga, and it is owned by the state of Georgia. Matter of fact, you'll see it on the right side of the train crossing over Lightfoot Mill Road. Yes, Georgia does own land here in Tennessee, except for Neyland Stadium, of course, but that depends on a football game. But you might be wondering now, how is that possible? How is the state of Georgia owning land? See, well, you need to thank one gentleman by the name of Colonel James Whiteside, who is also a Tennessee state legislator. The state of Georgia began to build the Western and Atlantic, started in the year 1836 in Terminus, Georgia. The state of Tennessee did not want this railroad because the state of Georgia would own land here. And truth be told, I would probably agree with that because I don't want my neighbor to build this railroad in my backyard either. But with Colonel James Whiteside lobbying feverishly on behalf of the railroad's request, his political comrades finally relented on that not wanting Georgia in here. That line was completed in 1850 and was the first railroad in the city of Chattanooga. Now, a trivia question for everybody right here in car number 390, mostly because I'm the ones who's seeing y'all right now. Terminus, Georgia. What is that today? What is the city of Terminus, Georgia today? Will you say it's McCaysville? Not quite. Anybody else want to give it a try? All right, the blank stares say, tell me. Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia was Terminus, Georgia. Before that, it was Marthasville. Anyway, back to our railroad. About to cross over a third bridge over Tunnel Boulevard. Wait a second. A bridge over a road called Tunnel Boulevard. Shouldn't Tunnel Boulevard have, I don't know, a tunnel? Well, that was the case till the 1960s. The city of Chattanooga demolished it. They daylighted the tunnel, which would have been underneath the railroad. It was a one-lane tunnel underneath the railroad for roadway traffic to pass below. And they did that because in 1953, the Southern Railway would abandon this line. You'll see why here in just a couple minutes. In the 1970s, 1977 specifically, we constructed this bridge we're going over right now. And that allows us to connect East Chattanooga to Grand Junction, which is also known as Jersey. The reason why it's called Jersey, even on Norfolk Southern's railroad, it's called Control Point Jersey. Before we occupied that site, it was a Jersey cow farm. And if anybody traveled here using Highway 153, Exit 3, which is where we're located on, it's called Jersey Pike. On the left side of the train, you'll see what looks like where a railroad once ran. That is again the original 1859 right-of-way of the railroad. It was all hand-laid and hand-constructed, so they took the path of least resistance, so that means they ran into a giant rock and went around it. Coming up here in just a minute, we'll be approaching our Missionary Ridge Tunnel. Which question? You like the video with a lot of train and plane crashes? All right, you are a very scary young man. Anyway, what's your name, buddy? What? Xander? Y'all watch out for Xander. Anyway, listen for our horn of our locomotive 1829. Engineer Zach above the horn is going to tell us on the back here that we're coming up on the tunnel that he's seen, that we are safe to proceed. Let's see what he says there, Engineer Zach. Alrighty, folks, so our tunnel about to pass through was constructed back in 1858. Took 2 years to dig out, all by hand, from 1868 to 1858. 1856 to 1858. Man, I'm a little tongue-tied right there. And it's all hand done. Now, if anybody's riding in the baggage room of 390, if you would do me a favor, please keep all hands, shoulders, children, and pets inside the baggage doors. Anybody here afraid of the dark? If you're trying to afraid of the dark, well, just close your eyes. What I want you to do instead is pull out your cell phones, turn your flashlight on, but I'm about to put it up to the window. Gonna experience my favorite time of the day. No, it's not lunchtime. It's tunnel time on the Missionary Ridge Local in East Tennessee. Here we go. Folks, welcome to the west side of Missionary Ridge. This is the side of the tunnel that faces downtown Chattanooga. Now in that tunnel between us and those tunnel walls on either side of the train was only about 11 inches of clearance. That was it. Very, very tight. And I may have mentioned this, I don't quite remember if I had time to mention it before, but in 1906 they raised the railroad to prevent it from being flooded over. They also double-tracked it. And that meant the trains were not able to pass by each other at 40 miles an hour in either direction, except in the tunnel, where the tracks would converge into one. Let me explain. As we are a westbound train, we took priority on the railroad coming into Chattanooga. Of course, it was a major river and rail hub, and still is today. But that meant that we took priority. All other trains having to go through the tunnel, going eastbound, had to wait for us to pass through. And at some point, most times, it had been a backup of several trains waiting to pass through that tunnel going east. Railroad east, I should say, to Knoxville, Tennessee. But what I mean by that is, if you've been in Atlanta travel before, then you know their struggle. But in 1953, they abandoned this line and they built a bypass around that tunnel and the ridge itself. It is used by their successor, Norfolk Southern Corporation, to this day. And we just passed over our fourth and final bridge over Arno Street. The reason why it is called Arno Street is because when they were developing this area over here, there wasn't supposed to be a street there. So there are no streets. I heard a couple groaners in there. I'll get you another time. But that does mean that we are approaching our final destination of East Chattanooga. Now, when we arrive at East Chattanooga, we'll be inviting you off the train. We're going to take you folks down to the turntable. We're going to show you how we spin our locomotive around 180 degrees. And then we're going to invite everybody over to our back shop. That is where we do all the repairs and maintenance on the railroad. And we're going to show you an up-close view of one of our coal-fired operational steam locomotives. Now, you're not required to exit the train if you don't want to, but we do encourage you to join us off the train. And you are more than welcome to leave your personal items on the train as well, so you're not having to carry it around. Now, friends, this is an active rail yard. That means there are possibly some projects happening today, and that means there are some safety rules for you to follow, especially if your name is Xander. Talk about train crashes and whatnot, so don't trust me. Anyway, rule number one is to please stay with the tour group at all times. You can stay on the train or the depot, but if you come on the tour, please stay with the tour. That way I know where everybody is. Number two, please stay on the pavement and pathways. Do not walk onto the railroad track, gravel, or ballast. And that's going to lead right into rule number three. Please do not climb or put your kiddo on a train for a picture. And that is for every single piece of equipment over here. It may look really nice for a photograph, but I guarantee you, if your child decides to become Tony Hawk and jump off the train, it may not end very well for them. That also counts as a fire hazard. Let me explain. If Xander, for example, decides to climb on a piece of equipment and he falls off and hits his head, we know what's going to happen. I'm going to laugh at you.
Look at all the old cars.
And then because I laughed, it didn't help him make it fire. That's why it's called fire hazard. Xander, I'm watching you, boy. You do parkour, or you can do your parkour somewhere else. Last but not least, rule number four is to please have fun. If you look in the shop, that's that steam locomotive over there, we're going to talk about. But our station agent, Miss Tara, is here today. There she is. As we come in, give her a big old wave. Hello, Miss Tara. Hey there. Now, she's got some delicious snacks inside. She's got ice cream, cookies, and some delicious candies, and also some delicious cold glass bottle drinks as well. So we do encourage you to visit the depot. If you wouldn't mind, do so after the tour. That way you can enjoy everything. And since we got a pretty full train, if you would also do us a favor, please remember where you are sitting. When we come back, you'll want to return to your original seat. That way there is no confusion. When you look around, you might see some numbers and letters. Those will remind you where you're sitting at. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the thriving metropolis of East Chattanooga. Station stop.